Hey, welcome to this video. We're going to be doing NordVPN on a MikroTik, but this time we're going to have multiple tunnels. So I've done other videos on using NordVPN IKev2 IPsec tunnels. The one I did most recently was where I did a full config for a HAP, so including everything from the WAN, the LAN, firewall rules, the DHCP, the whole lot, and then added the VPN on top of that. And I've done one previously before that, was setting up just the NordVPN side of it. But this one's going to be, we're going to have two tunnels this time. Previously in my other videos, I've done tunnel to the UK. So this time we're going to do a tunnel to the UK and tunnel to Australia. And I'm currently in Australia, so I'm just going to be routing all my traffic via the NordVPN for, added security or whatever your requirements are. So first off, I've got this this article, this step-by-step guide on my website, marketingmasters.com. We have this offer here for NordVPN. If you don't currently have it, if you click on there, it will take you through to the basically you get 2 years plus some extra, and it works out about, in Australian dollars, $4.39, but this is relevant for whatever country you're in. You can use up to, I think, 10 devices concurrently. It's a pretty good value, I think. Tells you your IP information there, but it works on multiple different devices. So I've got one running on my Android phone, I've got one running on my Chromecast TV. You can select what applications use it and which ones don't, so you can have it running all the time without worrying about, if you're trying to I've got some certain file shares which can only be accessed from a UK IP address. So one way to get to those is I just tunnel all my traffic via NordVPN, and it's always up for that particular application, and that works really well. So click on that link, or click on the link in the description below. Also will help me support this channel as well. Full disclosure, it's an affiliated link. I'm not going to hide that fact, but yeah, it's definitely I think a worthwhile option if you're looking for some security. Also, you'll get a 30-day money back guarantee should you decide you don't want it anymore. And I have used that in the past, and again can confirm that they don't question it. They'll give you your money back if you're not feel you need the service. So anyway, enough about that. This is basically once you've got it set up. We're going to go through all these steps in a second, but this is a step-by-step guide for you to follow about how to set up your connection on your MikroTik. So it's just easy to follow along if you're rather than just skipping back and forth for a video as well. I'll put a link again in the description below. So first things we're going to do is we're going to log into our NordVPN account, and then we're going to configure up our MikroTik here. So I'm using a HAP-AX, which this machine is currently connected through. It's basic setup: LAN, WAN, DHCP, DNS, etc. Nothing fancy. Firewall just protecting us on that input chain. I've also now created, as well as my LAN bridge, I created these additional two. One I've called UK and Australia. So this is basically the networks that we're going to be routing out there over the different tunnels. And then what I can do is just change my interface, or the port that my machine is plugged into, and then we'll begin on these different networks and see how it routes differently. But that's the only other additional thing I've done. So if we jump back onto our Nord account, which I've already logged into, we click on NordVPN over here, and then we scroll down to this manual setup manually. Okay, and then from here we can select our different servers that we want to connect to, and as you can see, there's heaps of options. But first we're going to need to grab our server credentials. So click on these service credentials here. It's going to ask you to verify your email every time you click on this link. So if you click on it, get your credentials, and don't get them, you need to go back and do this step every time. So it's just an added layer of security. But what that's doing now is it's going to send me a verification email, and it'll give, just obviously you're probably familiar with this process on several things that use this MFA using your email. So I'll just grab that code from there. Oh, didn't copy that properly. There we go. Now it's going to show me my details here, password, username, password. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a notepad and copy those across because I'm going to need those later. Copy that one. And the same for the password. And these are unique, but they don't change, so it's important to keep these safe and not widely available to people. Now we can go back to our server recommendation, which is going to give us our list of servers again. So as I mentioned, we're going to go to Australia for one of them. So as you can see, there's heaps of different ones here. We'll just use the first one it gives us. Okay, it's our Australian one, and then let's go to UK. Grab that one, and we'll put that in here. Okay, that's literally all we need to do on our Nord account. Now we can jump back onto our MikroTik. Now what we're going to do is we can close that now. We don't need that in the moment. We go to IPsec, because that's what we're creating, an IPsec tunnel. Okay. In fact, sorry, no, the first thing we're going to do is go to get our certificate. So to do that, we need the terminal, and this is where using that guide I showed you on my website is handy, because we will grab the I've got the two commands you need in there. So the first one's going to be a fetch command, which is basically going to download the certificate, and then we need to import that. And again, that can be done just with the other command there. Certificate's imported. There we go. So then we go to system certificates. You can see there it is there. So we have our certificate. We don't need to do that anymore. Now we can start to build our tunnel. So we're going to start with our profile, which is here. So on the other videos I've done, if you've watched those, I called them all the same name. I just called them, because I was doing the tunnel to the UK, I just called them NordVPN _UK. Now what we're going to do, we're going to share some of these between the two different accounts. So what I'm going to just call these ones is just NordVPN if it's going to be used for both. Again, this one, what we're doing is just giving it a name. The reason for this is it's the same as the default one, but if you've got any of the IPsec tunnels or anything else that uses slightly different algorithms, or different Diffie-Hellman groups or something like that, you can, if you use the default one and something else is using that default one and you make changes here, you could break one tunnel, break the other. So my advice is always, if you're doing anything that involves IPsec, such as L2TP over IPsec, or standard IPsec tunnel, IKev2 or not, always just create a new profile, and any proposals, anything like that, don't use the default ones, just in case you do have to make any additional changes, because you may not always be in control of the other end. Like with NordVPN, we don't manage that side of the tunnel, we're just doing what they need us to do. So likewise, if you have another corporate network you want to but connect a tunnel to, they may have specific requests or algorithms you need to use. So we don't want to be messing any other services we got. So just a little piece of advice there. So next one we're going to do is our proposal. Again, this is going to be shared across both tunnels, so we just call this NordVPN, and this time we're just again going to leave everything default. Okay, now we can create our policy group. Once again, that is shared, so we'll just call that NordVPN. Okay, and now we're going to create our policy. Okay, policy, sorry. No, I missed a step, haven't I? We need to create our... No, that is right, sorry. The P a bit threw me, but I remember we have to click template first. Okay, we're just going to do everything all zeros, because we'll control what traffic we're routing somewhere else. Template ticked, group NordVPN, action profile NordVPN. Okay, and again, that's just generic across two. Oh, looks like I've left the one in from... That one's the one I just created. What one's this? Okay, so I've got two there. Okay, Let's get rid of all those. That would have been earlier when I tested this. Sometimes I always forget to remove exactly every bit of config. So, right, so we've done our half of our tunnel now. Now we're going to jump into our firewall, and I'll show you the address lists I've created. So I've got these local Australia, local UK. So in the other ones I just select the local, because local is the IP address of my LAN bridge, and at the time we're routing all of our LAN across. Now we're going to create these two separate ones. So UK is going to be routing out of our UK bridge, which is the 192.168.1, and Australia is going to be the 2, you can see there. So I'll just create these additional ones here, and they become required in a sec. Okay, so we go into mode configs now, and this is where we're going to do two separate ones. So I'll just get those up side by side. Okay, so we'll call this one NordVPN _UK and NordVPN _Australia AU. Okay, untick responder, because we're going to pull a lot of the policy stuff down automatically from Nord. And then this is where we select those address lists. So this one's the UK and this one's Australia. So that means anything in these subnets will be routed across this tunnel. Okay, right, now we can go ahead and create our peer. Now we're going to need those two separate ones, because we're peering to two different tunnels, and this is where we're going to need our two host names. So put that in the address there. So that's the Australian one, and that is the UK one. And again, NordVPN _Australia, NordVPN _AU. So UK. Okay. Profile NordVPN for both. Exchange mode IKev2. Okay, and the rest we leave as is. Okay and okay. Okay, now we're going to create our identities. And again, we're going to need two of these, and this is where we're going to need our username and passwords. So just create those two there. Okay, peer 1 and peer 2, Australia and UK. We're going to use EAP, encryption mode MSCHAP v2 for both. No remote certificate. We'll put our username and passwords in a sec. But policy group, that generic Nord one we created, and then we're going to mode config the specific ones and port strict, and then UK here, wasn't it? And then port strict. Okay, now we can grab our credentials, and it's going to be the same credentials for both. Username and username, and then password. Okay, ignore this where it says peer doesn't exist, because I haven't applied it yet. See, that goes away. Cool. And then we go. Actually, one thing we need to do first, under the identities, because we've got basically two connections coming from the same IP address, not necessarily because we're coming from the same WAN IP address on the same device. That's okay, but our phase 2 is going to be coming from the same internal IP range. So what we're going to do is, if we go back to that, the IP addresses of the two LANs I created, two bridges. In the identities, we're just going to, not the identities, in the peers, what we'll do is we're going to specify our local address for each one. So for Australia, it's 192.168.2.1. So that's the local interface that we're going to route traffic through. Based in our mode configs, we specified that as the LAN for that one. And then we're going to go for UK, we're going to do 192.168.1.1. Okay, now hopefully we should have had, get them both established. We can, oh yeah, there we go. See, now they can specify the separate IP addresses on the other end. So this is the IP address on the Nord side that we've been assigned, and as you can see, we've been assigned 2 different ones because we're connecting from 2 different LANs. So that's established the phase 2 state. So if we don't specify those, chances are you're only going to get one of these tunnels come up at a time. Okay, so now we can test our routing across. So first of all, we can start with pinging. Now this should be fairly clear because we are routing from Australia to the UK. We'll see some dramatic differences in the ping times. So let's go from the Australian one first of all. So we're going to specify our source of the network that's going to be routed over that tunnel. Okay, that's... Oh, was that the right one? That was Australia, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. So, fairly standard ping times. Now if we change that to 1, so our UK one, there we go. That's what I wanted to see. 300 plus millisecond ping times, because we're obviously traveling a much further distance. Okay, now what we can do is, this machine is currently connected to this LAN bridge. And then within that bridge, I've got my 2 to 5 ports inside it. I'll show you that now. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm connected to 2. As you can see, it's in LAN bridge. So if we go ahead and change this to be our Australian one first of all. Actually, before we do that, I will just do a ping or trace route even to Cloudflare. As you can see, it's going over my WAN interface and across my local network. Now if I change that, apply that, I should also say I've got DHCP servers running on both of these as well, which I previously set up. We may just need to renew our IP address. Just in case you're wondering what that is, if I haven't previously mentioned it, the management is the I've got a single NIC connected. If you've seen any of my other videos, I do the same for most of them, but as you can see, there's no gateway, so it's just so I can access this machine remotely to do this demo, but all my traffic is routing through this interface, so don't worry about that. So we just disable that one and enable it again. Okay, we should, I still got DHCP server open. Nope, IP DHCP server releases. Okay, cool. So I'm now on the Australian one. Yeah, that's 2.198. So now I can do the same thing. Okay, you can see it's going to that IP now of the MikroTik, and then it's going across the tunnel. Okay, all fairly happy ping times. In fact, it's actually quicker going over the tunnel to get to the, interestingly. Now let's go for the UK one. So again, all we're going to do is change our bridge to be UK. We will just disable and re-enable this NIC just for some speed. We should get another IP address in here, starting with 1, or the third octet being 1. There we are, 1.20. And now let's do that same thing again. There we go. The larger ping times. Okay, so that basically means we've got 2 networks, and they're both going to be routing over 2 different VPNs. And now we can have separate Wi-Fi networks if we wanted with these. So you could have if you just wanted to connect certain devices wirelessly, or you've got hardwired devices you want to route over one particular tunnel only, then you just stick it in that that bridge, that NordVPN UK or Australian bridge, depending on where you want to route your traffic. But yeah, hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory. It's very similar to the obviously setting it up normally. The only difference is we've got multiple peers and multiple identities and multiple mode configs with the 2 separate networks there. Everything else now we can just use the same for each. So proposal and group and profile, the standard one. Okay, but if you've got any questions, any other things you'd like to try, any other problems, I've done other NordVPN videos where we've done some policy routing, so routing individual device. That's a little bit more convoluted, but it does work. But yeah, I'm sure there's other possibilities we can do with this setup here if we wanted to. So yeah, happy to try stuff out if you think it's worthwhile. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. If not, check out that the webpage, the website I showed you earlier. Again, link in the description. Leave me comments on there. You can contact me there as well if you've got any ideas or issues. So, but if not, I'll say thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.